Most people have no idea what death actually looks like. Not in movies, not in books, in real life. The human body doesn't just stop. It goes through a very specific sequence of changes in the final hours. And doctors know exactly what those changes are. They've been studying them for decades in palliative care and hospice medicine. Today, we're going to walk through 13 clinically documented signs that indicate a person will likely die within the next 24 hours. This isn't morbid curiosity. This is information that matters. Millions of people every year sit beside a dying loved one with no idea what's happening or what to expect. This video is for them. Let's start. Sign 1. Refusing food and water. The first sign usually appears not in the final 24 hours, but in the final 1 to 3 days. The dying person completely loses interest in food and water, not because they're being stubborn, not because they've given up mentally. The body is doing this on purpose. When the body begins shutting down, digestion requires enormous energy that the body can no longer spare. The digestive system is one of the first major systems to go offline. At this stage, forcing food or water actually makes things worse, not better. The kidneys can no longer process fluids properly. Extra fluid can accumulate in the lungs. The body knows what it's doing. The refusal of food and water is one of the clearest signals that the body has entered the active dying process. Sign 2. Extreme fatigue and withdrawal. The person sleeps almost constantly. Hours become indistinguishable. Day and night merge. When they are awake, they're barely responsive. Short answers, long pauses, eyes that don't fully focus. This is not depression. This is not giving up. The brain is reducing its energy consumption systematically. Non-essential functions go first. Social engagement, awareness of surroundings, interest in conversation. The brain is rationing what little energy remains for the functions that keep the body alive for as long as possible. Sign 3. Changes in breathing. This is one of the most distinctive and well-documented signs. The breathing pattern changes in a very specific way. It's called Cheyne-Stokes respiration. The person breathes rapidly for a period, then breathes slowly, then stops breathing entirely for 10 to 60 seconds, then starts again. This cycle repeats. It happens because the part of the brain that regulates breathing, the brainstem, is receiving less and less oxygen. The breathing control mechanism becomes inconsistent. It's deeply unsettling to witness. It looks like the person is about to die with every pause, but it can continue for hours, sometimes days. Sign 4. The death rattle. One of the most confronting sounds a human being can hear. A low, rattling, bubbling sound with every breath. It has a name in palliative medicine. It's called terminal secretions, or more commonly, the death rattle. What's happening is straightforward. The person has lost the ability to swallow or cough effectively. Saliva and mucus accumulate in the back of the throat. Air passing over this fluid creates the rattling sound. It sounds like the person is struggling. It sounds like they're in distress. But research consistently shows that people in this stage are not consciously aware of the sound. They are not suffocating. They are not in pain from the breathing. The death rattle is distressing for the people in the room. It is not distressing for the dying person. Sign 5. Mottling of the skin. Look at the legs. In the final hours, a distinctive pattern appears on the skin, particularly on the knees, feet, and lower legs. Blotchy, purplish-blue patches arranged in a lace-like network across the skin surface. This is called livido reticularis. In dying patients, it's called mottling. What's happening is that circulation is failing. The heart can no longer pump blood efficiently to the extremities. Blood begins to pool in the capillaries beneath the skin. The pattern of mottling tends to spread upward over time, from the feet toward the knees, from the knees toward the thighs. The higher it spreads, the closer to death. Once mottling reaches above the knees, death is typically within hours. Sign 6. Coldness of the extremities. At the same time as mottling appears, the hands and feet become cold. Not just cool, cold. The skin feels waxy. The temperature difference between the cold feet and the warm chest can be dramatic. This is the body's last conservation effort. When circulation begins to fail, The body prioritizes blood flow to the vital organs, the heart, the brain, the lungs. Everything else gets cut off. The hands and feet are the first to lose circulation, then the lower legs, then the arms. The coldness moves inward and upward toward the core. When the core itself begins to cool, death is very close. Sign 7. Changes in the eyes. The eyes change in ways that are distinctive and documentable. The eyelids may not fully close anymore. A thin strip of white may be visible even when the person appears to be sleeping. The eyes themselves may appear glassy, unfocused, fixed on a point in the middle distance. The pupils may become unequal in size, or fixed and non-reactive to light. In some patients, the eyes begin to sink slightly into their sockets as the tissues around them lose hydration. These changes reflect what's happening in the brain. The neurological systems that control eye movement, pupil response, and eyelid function are losing their blood supply and shutting down. Sign 8. Changes in urine. The kidneys are among the first organs to show visible evidence of failure. Urine output drops dramatically. What urine is produced becomes dark, sometimes brown, sometimes almost black. This happens because the kidneys can no longer filter blood properly. Waste products concentrate in the urine to levels far beyond normal. Eventually, urine production stops entirely. In clinical practice, the cessation of urine output is one of the clearest indicators that the kidneys have shut down and death is approaching within hours to days. Sign 9. Falling blood pressure. This one isn't visible, but it's one of the most reliable clinical indicators of approaching death. Blood pressure drops steadily as the heart weakens and blood vessels lose their tone. In the final hours, the systolic pressure, the upper number, may fall below 70, then below 50. At a certain point, it becomes unmeasurable. The pulse at the wrist disappears. A pulse may still be detectable at the carotid artery in the neck. Then that too fades. In hospital settings, this is monitored continuously. At home, family members often notice that the person's pulse has become very faint and very fast. The heart is racing to try to compensate for falling pressure. It cannot compensate for long. Sign 10. Terminal restlessness. This sign is one of the most distressing for family members to witness. A person who has been completely unresponsive and still for hours suddenly becomes agitated. They may try to get out of bed. They may pull at their clothing or bedding. They may make repetitive gestures, reaching, picking at the air. They may moan or call out. This is called terminal restlessness or terminal agitation. It's caused by the accumulation of metabolic waste products in the blood as the kidneys and liver fail. The brain, receiving less oxygen and more toxins, produces a state of confusion and involuntary motor activity. It is not pain in the conventional sense. It is neurological disturbance. It can be managed with medication in a clinical setting. At home, calm, reassuring voices and gentle touch can sometimes reduce the agitation. It typically lasts hours, rarely more than a day. Sign 11. Visions and conversations. With the deceased. This is the sign that surprises people most. The dying person begins talking to people who aren't there. Specifically, people who have already died. A deceased parent, a sibling, an old friend. The dying person may describe seeing them in the room, may carry on full conversations, may express comfort or happiness at seeing them. This is one of the most consistently documented phenomena in palliative care. It appears across cultures, across religions, across people with no religious belief at all. The neurological explanation is that the dying brain, under metabolic stress, accesses deeply stored memories and projects them as perceived presences. Whether there is any other explanation is a question medicine cannot answer. What palliative care specialists agree on is that these experiences are almost universally reported as comforting by the people having them. The dying person is not frightened. They are, in most cases, genuinely glad to see whoever they see. Sign 12. The terminal lucidity. This is perhaps the most remarkable and most unexpected sign of all. In the hours before death, sometimes just minutes before, a person who has been unresponsive for hours or days suddenly becomes lucid, fully lucid. They recognize family members. They speak clearly. They may hold a conversation. They may say goodbye. They may say things that feel profoundly important. And then they lose consciousness again. And they die. This is called terminal lucidity, or terminal rallying, or in some traditions, the surge before death. It has been documented in patients with severe dementia, in comatose patients, in patients who had lost the ability to speak. It cannot currently be predicted or explained by neuroscience. It happens across all ages, all diagnoses, all stages of illness. The best advice from hospice workers is simple. If it happens, be there. Say what you need to say, because the window may be brief. Sign 13. Changes in skin color and texture. Beyond mottling, the skin undergoes other visible changes. The face may become very pale, a pale grayish-yellow pallor that is distinct from normal skin tone and distinct from illness pallor. The lips and the area around the mouth may darken. The skin over the entire body may take on a waxen quality, smooth, slightly shiny, as if made of a different material than living skin. The nasolabial folds, the lines from the nose to the corners of the mouth, become more pronounced. The jaw may relax and drop slightly. These changes are caused by the collapse of circulation to the skin and the relaxation of facial musculature as neurological control decreases. In clinical practice, experienced nurses and physicians can often recognize approaching death within hours from these visible changes alone, without any monitoring equipment. These 13 signs are not predictions. They are observations documented by thousands of clinicians over decades of palliative care practice. They do not tell you exactly when, they tell you approximately. And that approximation matters enormously to the people in the room. Knowing that the death rattle is not suffering, that can prevent hours of needless anguish. Knowing that terminal lucidity may come, that can mean someone stays in the room instead of stepping out for coffee at the wrong moment. Knowing what mottling means, that can give a family the chance to gather the people who need to be there. Death is the one thing every human being will experience. Understanding what it looks like is not morbid. It is simply being prepared for something inevitable.